Life sometimes offers an unexpected light in the darkest moments. A young teacher escaping the chaos of the big city finds a fresh start in a small town. But through a chance encounter with an elderly woman and her warm family, Evan's life will be changed forever. Stay tuned and witness this heartfelt story unfold. Evan, in his early 30s, had moved to a small town to start a new chapter in his life. He was running away from the chaos of the big city, the burnout from work, and the endless problems that never seemed to be resolved. His years in the city had felt like living in a cage. The constant noise of people, the chaotic roads, and the never-ending struggles had drained his patience. That's why he decided to settle in this small, quiet town, hoping to find peace. Despite living in a big city and working at a private school, Evan's salary was incredibly low and barely enough to get by. He had no savings and this life was draining him. He even had to take out a small loan just to cover his moving expenses. In this small town, he hoped to somehow pull himself together. And maybe in the future he could fulfill his dream of buying a home for his mother and sister who lived far away. Evan deeply wanted to ease the burden of his family, who had been struggling with rent for years. But even though he worked hard, he never had any money left to support them. But Evan didn't know yet that this town would offer him not only peace but also unexpected opportunities that would change his life forever. Evan entered the small town market to buy groceries for his modest apartment. Taking out his list, he started placing items in his basket one by one. As he browsed the produce aisle, an elderly woman caught his eye. She kept adjusting her glasses, staring blankly at the shelves and mumbling incomprehensibly. Her hands were full, and the bags she carried were clearly a struggle for her. It was obvious she needed help. Setting his basket aside, Evan slipped his list back into his pocket and approached her gently. "Hello," he said with a warm smile. The woman turned to him with a hint of surprise and responded, "Oh, hello. Do you need some help?" Evan asked. The woman smiled faintly and replied, "Oh, I wouldn't want to bother you." But Evan reassured her with a sincere, "It's no trouble at all," as he kindly took one of her bags and slung it over his arm. Pulling her shopping cart closer, he said, "All right, let's see. What do you need?" The woman chuckled softly at Evan's quick and determined demeanor. "Oh, I'm making a roast. I need some potatoes and onions," she began listing. Evan smiled and said, "Hold on now, let's take it one step at a time. Potatoes first. How many do we need?" "As much as I can carry," the woman replied. Her answer tugged at Evan's heart. "Potatoes don't spoil quickly," he said. "I'll help you carry them and even drop them off at your home. So let's grab a little extra." The woman nodded gratefully. "All right, let's get a bit more then." Together, they gathered the rest of the ingredients for the roast, spices, onions, and the meat. At the checkout, the woman pulled out a card to pay while Evan carefully packed the items into bags. As they exited the store, the woman suddenly paused. "Oh dear, you didn't get anything for yourself," she said with concern. Evan smiled and reassured her, "Don't worry, I'll come back after I drop you off." They walked toward Evan's old car, parked just outside the market. It was a well-worn vehicle that had seen better days but was reliable enough. Evan opened the trunk and placed the bags inside before holding the passenger door open for the woman. She climbed in with a hint of hesitation, thanking him as she did. Once Evan got into the driver's seat, he said, "All right, tell me how to get to your place." The woman smiled as she began giving him directions. Evan was surprised to learn how far her house was. "Were you planning to walk all that way?" he asked. The woman laughed. "I don't usually buy this much," she said. "My kids are coming over and I wanted to cook them a nice meal. Normally, I just get what I can manage. Thank you for helping me today." Evan smiled warmly. "Anytime," he said. When they arrived at her home, Evan helped her carry the bags inside. However, as he stepped into the house, he couldn't help but notice its condition. The furniture looked like it had been moved but not put back in place. The curtains were dusty, and the rug appeared only half cleaned. It was clear to him that she had tried to tidy up, but her aging body hadn't allowed her to finish. Are you enjoying this story? Then subscribe to our channel and don't miss more touching tales like this. You can also support us by using the Super Thanks feature. "When are your kids arriving?" Evan asked. "Tomorrow," the woman replied. Evan knew he couldn't just walk away. The house itself was beautiful, with charming architecture and quality materials that caught his eye. "This house is amazing," Evan said. The woman smiled wistfully. "Yes, I love it here. That's why, even after everyone left, I chose to stay. My late husband and I shared all our memories here." After a brief pause, she looked at Evan. "Where do you live?" she asked. Evan shared his story about moving to the town and the struggles he had faced in the city. The woman listened attentively, her expression softening. You made the right choice coming here. This town is peaceful and full of good people. You'll see, she said with a comforting smile. Evan took a deep breath, looking around the room again. Snow had started to fall outside, blanketing the town in quiet beauty. He turned back to the woman. I can see you've been trying to clean up, he said gently. Would it be all right if I helped you finish? Oh no, that's too much to ask, she began to protest. But Evan interrupted her with a warm laugh. I love this house and I'd love to see more of it. Besides, you're the first friend I've made here. We can spend some time together while we tidy up. The woman chuckled softly, her protests fading. All right then, she said with a smile. Evan rolled up his sleeves and got to work. It might have seemed like an ordinary day, but it marked the start of something extraordinary, a meaningful bond that would shape Evan's new life in the little town. Evan grabbed a cleaning cloth and some cleaning solution and got to work. Wearing gloves, he carefully began dusting the furniture. The house had gathered a lot of dust, and with every wipe, he could feel the weight of the task. Meanwhile, the elderly woman was unpacking the grocery bags and putting away the kitchen items, all while chatting with Evan. She listened intently as Evan spoke about his life in the big city, marveling at how such stories were things she'd only seen in TV dramas. It was clear she had been leading a lonely life, and it had been a long time since she had enjoyed a conversation like this. Evan, while carefully dusting, kept listening to her stories. When Evan saw that she had finished unpacking, he didn't want her to start any other chores. However, the woman seemed uneasy about just sitting while Evan worked. Resting didn't come naturally to her, but Evan could see her exhaustion and didn't want her to wear herself out further. He decided to find a way to encourage her to rest without hurting her feelings. Subtly, Evan used his car keys to tear the pocket of his jacket. With a serious expression, he said, Miranda, can I ask you for a favor? Miranda quickly responded, Oh, of course, anything. Evan showed her the torn pocket and asked, Do you know how to sew? Miranda's face lit up as she said, Oh dear, that's quite a tear, but yes, I can fix it. Let me grab my sewing kit. She eagerly pulled out her needles and thread from a drawer. Evan couldn't help but smile inwardly at the innocence of his little ruse. Thank you so much. I'm terrible at this kind of thing, he said. Miranda settled comfortably into her chair, happily occupied with sewing. She was resting while staying busy, enjoying the simple satisfaction of mending the jacket. Meanwhile, Evan continued with the cleaning. He vacuumed the entire house, beat the rugs, scrubbed the kitchen, and tidied up the bathroom. The house's architecture and materials fascinated him. The stone carvings, elegant ceramic surfaces, and every detail exuded care and craftsmanship. As he cleaned, he couldn't help but admire the beauty of the home while ensuring every corner sparkled. When he finally finished, Evan returned to the living room. Stepping into the room, he noticed Miranda had fallen asleep in her chair, her face peaceful and serene. Quietly, Evan retrieved his jacket from her hands and gently draped a blanket over her. The weariness that had once etched her face had been replaced by calm contentment. Evan left the house silently. It was too late to go back to the market now, and he was exhausted from cleaning the entire house. He returned to his small apartment. It was the weekend, so he didn't have school the next day, leaving him plenty of time to rest and get his shopping done. His apartment was still a work in progress. He didn't even have a proper bed yet. He adjusted his couch into a makeshift bed and prepared to sleep. Outside, snow continued to fall quietly over the town, wrapping everything in a tranquil white blanket. Evan paused for a moment, reflecting on how magical life seemed in this small town. He wanted to believe this place could be his salvation and a chance to start over. Taking a deep breath, he closed his eyes and let himself drift into a peaceful sleep, embraced by the exhaustion of the day and the hope of a new beginning. The next morning, Evan went grocery shopping after having his morning coffee. When he returned, he began organizing his apartment. He unpacked boxes, hung up his clothes, and worked to make the space more livable. In the afternoon, he sat in the kitchen with his coffee, a pen, paper, and a calculator, going over his rent, bills, and other expenses. Just as he was getting into it, there was a knock at the door. Surprised, Evan got up. He didn't know anyone in the town. Who could it be? When he opened the door, he saw a man around his own age with a warm smile. Hi, are you Evan? The man asked. Yes, how can I help you? Evan replied. The man introduced himself. I'm Miranda's son. She told me which building you lived in, so I went door to door until I found you, he said with a small laugh. Evan chuckled back. Is there a problem? He asked. Oh no, not at all. By the way, I'm David. Nice to meet you. My family and I arrived about an hour ago, and my mom would like to see you. She's inviting you to dinner. If you're free, we can head over together," David explained. The sudden invitation caught Evan off guard, but he figured it was Miranda's way of showing gratitude. There was just one issue: he was still in his sweatpants. "Come in," Evan said. "Give me 5 minutes to get ready." He invited David inside while he went to change. David glanced around the apartment. "Looks like you've just moved in." "Congratulations," he said. From the other room, Evan called out, "Yeah, just settling in. Sorry for the mess." David noticed the bills and calculations spread across the kitchen table, realizing Evan might be going through a tough time, though he chose not to comment. "Nice place," he said instead. "Thanks," Evan replied. "It's the first decent place I could find on short notice." Once Evan was ready, the two headed to Miranda's house. At the door, Miranda, her daughter, and her son-in-law greeted them warmly. Miranda smiled and said, "I can't believe you left while I was napping. I was wondering about you." "Oh, Evan, my house is sparkling clean thanks to you. I don't think it's been this clean in 5 years." Her daughter playfully interjected, "Mom, I cleaned the house last holiday season." Miranda waved her hand dismissively. "Yes, yes, I know," she said, making everyone burst into laughter. Dinner was lively and filled with joy. The table was a hub of conversation and laughter. After the meal, as they sipped coffee, David's tone became more serious. "Mom," he began, "I don't want you living here alone anymore. I've tried to get you to move in with me so many times, but now we really need to discuss this." Miranda's expression showed hesitation. "We've talked about this, David," she replied. "This house holds all my memories with your father." David, concerned about her age and loneliness, pressed gently. "Mom, you have to admit it's getting harder for you to live here alone. I'm in a good position to help you with everything. I even have assistants at home who can take care of you. If you come live with me, you'll be so much more comfortable." David then pulled out his phone to show her photos of a room he had prepared. "Look, this is your room. It has an ocean view. You could enjoy your morning coffee while gazing at the sea," he said. As Miranda looked at the pictures, her expression softened, showing she was warming up to the idea. Her daughter chimed in for support. "Yes, Mom. You'd also be close to me. We could have dinners together, breakfasts. You wouldn't be alone anymore. Please don't be stubborn." Faced with her children's determination, Miranda smiled and nodded. "All right," she said. "I guess you're right. I'm looking forward to this new chapter." Evan watched the scene unfold, feeling a sense of hope and happiness. Seeing Miranda embrace a fresh start inspired him to focus on his own new beginning. That warm evening reminded Evan of the beauty of forming connections with others, filling him with gratitude and optimism for what lay ahead. Miranda looked deeply into Evan's eyes and took a deep breath. "I have just one condition," she said. "This house will belong to Evan. I know he'll take good care of it." Evan shook his head in shock. "No, I can't accept this," he protested. But Miranda was resolute. David turned to Evan and spoke calmly. "Evan, we have to start fresh, and so do you. My mom told me what you did for her. Since my dad passed away, no one has extended her a helping hand like that." David's eyes were filled with emotion. Miranda, cutting through Evan's objections, continued, "You're a kind soul, Evan. What you did for me was priceless. Think of this as a small contribution to your new life. If you don't accept it, I won't leave," she said with a playful smile. Evan was speechless. He had realized Miranda's family was well off, but this offer was beyond generous. Seeing Evan hesitate, Miranda added, "If you stay here, I'll have a reason to visit this house again. But if you don't take it, this house will just wither away, because I won't give it to anyone else." Her voice carried both sadness and determination. Evan took a deep breath and nodded, pulling David aside to speak privately. David explained that he had struggled for years to convince his mother to leave the house and live with him. He was a very wealthy man, but his mother's attachment to this home was unshakable. "Evan," David said, "please accept the offer. My mom isn't happy here, and for her to find peace elsewhere, you need to take this house." Evan couldn't resist Miranda and David's sincerity any longer. Taking a deep breath, he agreed to their proposal. A week later, Evan moved into the house with his mother and sister. The home Miranda had offered him was a grand gesture of gratitude for his kindness. Miranda and David visited occasionally. Miranda would sit under the shade of the trees she had planted, reminiscing about her late husband and the beautiful years of her life. During these peaceful moments, she always expressed her gratitude to Evan. Evan, in turn, kept his promise to Miranda. He took great care of the house, preserving its memories and love. It became both a home for his own family and a place to honor Miranda's legacy. As Evan rebuilt his life in the small town, he also carried forward the friendship Miranda had once started, ensuring it would last a lifetime. If you loved this story, make sure to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to our channel. And remember, you can support us through Super Thanks. Every bit of support means the world to us.